We did it the first time as a giggle. We felt there were too many mutants. So we did the massacre to cull the herd.
I'm Jeremy Greer.
And I'm Gary Butterfield.
And this is Days of Future Cast, the podcast where we murder some mutants. How you doing, Gary?
Mm-hmm. I'm in a mutant murdering mood.
Yeah.
That's hard to say.
Mutant murdering mood.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're starting a new arc today. I was thinking about this when I was rereading this. We are there are connections between like a lot of the shit that we're covering in ways that are not planned, but if we wanted to seem smart, we would say seem planned.
Yeah.
So one of the things was like the storyline we're starting, the Mutant Massacre, was it's a specific population of mutants that got killed, but there are shades of like decimation and M-Day shit to this. Of like, it's weird that there are just hundreds of mutants living in the sewer and they're just really common in New York. Let's get that down to a manageable number of like a couple we can name.
Yeah. Let's leave Caliban and kind of scratch the rest of these guys. Yeah.
And let's get some other people. This is is a big important event in X-Men history for a lot of reasons, but it was kind of the first attempt I can kind of guess of pumping the brakes on mutants as a greater minority, I guess.
Yeah. Typical white man trying to keep the minority population to a manageable
100%.
AKA Marvel editorial.
AKA
the metaphor is too
Brian
real,
Bendis.
Gary. We gotta back. This metaphor is too real.
It is. We were talking about actual stuff before we recorded. It fucked us up.
Yep.
Yeah. This is also. Have you read this before?
I must have, because some of this stuff is familiar, but it must have been like years and years and years ago, because I don't think I got this far when I started Uncanny from Giant Size #1. Like, I don't think I got, when I did like that real big reread and I kind of fell off in Australia. I think this is after that, if I'm remembering right. So I haven't read it recently, but I definitely like remember some of the stuff that happens in it in that kind of way that you just, or maybe I've just seen panels or something, but I'm not very familiar with the text at all. So it was interesting going back through, and I'm not very familiar with this X Factor run at all. Like I need to go back and reread a bunch of this.
Early X Factor is fucking wild.
Yeah, dude, it's
real weird, like all over the place. It's a wild concept. I remember, so there was a website a long time ago called half.com. Might still exist, but it was the first alternative to eBay, which basically, before eBay rolled out Buy It Now, it was run by eBay for people just to sell things for cheap. And one of the first things I did when I had an address and disposable income was to go on there, put X-Men in the search bar, and then sort price from lowest to highest. And there'd be a lot of like $2 or $3 trade paperbacks with $4 shipping. So I just bought anything that had X-Men on it. And like, that is how I, got Fall of the Mutants and Inferno and Mutant Massacre and like all these, old classic storylines, Dark Phoenix Saga, stuff like that. And then also would get really weird, like, oh, I thought this was a storyline, but it's actually a reprint of the first 5 issues of X-Men called something different and published in Italian. Shit like that.
Whoops.
But it was just really weird. Like, it was the Wild West. I miss it so much, like as an experience. It was really strange. But I remember reading this in my early 20s, and this one being one of the ones that stood out to me as like, this is like a pretty cool story. Like, cool shit, and it leads into very cool shit. Because ever since I was a kid, I liked the Apocalypse and his Horsemen as a story.
I don't want to take us too far off topic just right at the very beginning, but what do you think the modern equivalent of something like getting just randomly buying X-Men books, or like in my mind, like unmarked VHS tape being put in a VCR, and just like trying to experience something new and weird. And like, cause I just like, I don't know, man, like everything is so categorized and labeled, and which is in a lot of ways is a good thing. Don't get me wrong. But like that feeling of, oh, here is something that like nobody but me has ever experienced before. Like, why does this exist? Like, I very, very rarely get that nowadays. And I'm curious if there's any kind of modern like implementation of it.
It's not exactly the same. It doesn't have the blind box thing, but it's the feeling I'm chasing when I go to thrift stores.
Yeah. Okay.
Because, you know, you won't find, like, you know what it is. You can pick it up and look at it before you buy it. But I will be in a thrift store and see something I didn't know existed. And it's basically the only way to have discoverability of things I did not know existed in terms of like old media.
I guess I get this sometimes with music when I get tuned into a new artist or something, and I'm like, oh, this is extremely my shit. And then like you look it up and like they have 400 followers on Twitter, and you're like, oh, this is nobody else's shit but my own, apparently. Like, this dude's gonna have a rough career.
I like, there's something really like kind of holy when that happens, I think.
Yeah.
Like there's a band that did a soundtrack for a game called Neon Struct that I really like. And I was like, oh, these people will be huge. And they're not.
Yeah.
There's like, you know, they have like 900 views on their songs on YouTube, and 200 of them are me. So over the course of the last like 6 years. So yeah, I like that feeling a lot. It's interesting when you move to a city. So like that kind of feeling of finding weird stuff in thrift stores is actually better the fewer thrift stores you have, in a weird way.
Yeah, I can see
like,
that.
Growing up in a college town is perfect because people would leave college and just get rid of all their stuff to move. Here in Portland, everyone's clued into it. So like you find stuff like that every once in a while, but like there's so many Garys out there just fucking truffle hunting for weird old shit. Like the same old weird shit.
And there's also like the problem I have with thrift stores down here is that there's just not enough weirdness. Like it's all like, you know, crocheted Confederate flags and stuff like that. Like I just don't.
Which is weird.
Which is a little weird. Yeah, that's not my particular brand. And I've never actually seen a crocheted Confederate flag, but that would be
no. Yeah,
I did see a half Confederate flag and half "Don't Tread on Me" flag the other day, which I thought was like on a flagpole outside of like a person's house, and I was like, wow.
And so we join our houses.
I like the idea that dude couldn't afford 2 flags. That's the amusing part
the
for
scratch
me.
and dent like remnants.
Yeah. Don't tread on me, but can I hold $1?
Yeah. That's very funny.
So yeah, Uncanny X-Men, we're going to murder a bunch of mutants. This starts out in Uncanny X-Men 210. If you're reading this at home and you're like me, you're going to be like, this doesn't feel like the start of a story. This feels like the middle of a story. In a weird way, the way that this crossover event unfolds is we're going to be seeing the same events from different perspectives. It's not quite as bad as the beach scene from Avengers vs. X-Men, but and I think it's very much on purpose. I'm not sure how much this was done at the time, but like it feels like they were kind of trying something new and different at the time.
They were. This is a historically important a little bit because it is one of the first like story, like editorial jumping in and being like, all of the X-Men titles should be involved in this thing. And coordinating between Chris Claremont and Louise Simonson. And then Walt Simonson, who was drawing one of the books. And then also there's a Thor issue in this crossover. And they've talked about it. Like you can look it up and see interviews. And they're all like, yeah, it was fucking horrible. It was a nightmare. Like it was so hard to coordinate. It's such a huge pain in the ass. Which is why you get so many the equivalent of the beach scenes, I think, is just because, you know, and they didn't, and as AVX taught us, they didn't really get better at it.
No, it's because it's hard to time this stuff. Like I'm, you know, think about any time that you've tried to roll out like an event and you have stuff scheduled to all happen at the same time, and it's just impossible. And now like complicate that with a dude has to draw it first.
Exactly. And, you know, and it has a deadline. It has a time it's coming out, you know, and every deadline is contingent. It feeling like the middle of a storyline is a big 80s Claremont thing. Like he's got to wrap up or, you know, continue all of his stuff that's kind of happening before it actually gets to the demarcation point. Like they weren't written for events.
Yeah.
This is only called the Mutant Massacre, like in retrospect. or in total, like it wasn't, this came out now, would be called like Road to Mutant Massacre.
Exactly. Yeah. The prequel or whatever.
This cover is very infamous. Here, this John Romita Jr., all the X-Men glaring at us, with Texas has come on, mess with us, make our day. The most pissed the X-Men have ever looked.
Yeah. What happened here? Did Magneto like piss in their Cheerios this morning or what?
And it's such a great time for the X-Men because they're so shitty.
Yeah.
During this, like this was the thing I really loved about Mutant Massacre and Fall of the Mutants. So I read them. It's like, man, these guys get fucked up.
Yeah. Yeah. They don't
are not
win.
good at this.
Yeah. They should be better at this. And it makes sense. Like, this is during the time frame that like Storm has taken over the team. The original X-Men aren't around. We'll talk about them in just a little while. But and also Storm has been depowered, right? Like she doesn't technically have powers, and they've got, some young blood, like Kitty Pryde is on the team. She's been promoted from the New Mutants, even though the New Mutants are hanging around. Xavier is gone. Magneto is running the school, which is it's a bunch of like kind of weird stuff happening. And I like that Claremont like spends a little bit of time each issue dealing with some of that. Like there's I can't remember if it's in this one or the next Uncanny where Storm and Wolverine like have a moment together, and it makes them feel like a family as opposed to a team.
Yeah, it's that Claremont magic.
Yep.
We start off in California, here, City of Angels, Los Angeles. The storyline is called The Morning After, and it begins with a guy named Richard getting shot in the back with as we'll find out, a harpoon.
An energy harpoon.
Yeah, everyone's favorite marauder.
Yes. And there's a lot of, typical Claremont narration here. Hunters and hunters, killers and victims. He was good at his job.
Exactly.
Now those dreams are dust. Like it's just it's Claremont being Claremont. I don't think I need to complain about that any more than we already have on this podcast. But there's a lot of it. It's here. If you're looking for that, it's right here.
It is what it is. And we have a Morlock you'll recognize. She was in the cartoon. She's the one where her head, she has this huge hair, and her face, and it's this big multicolored thing. I can't remember her name. I have a hard time remembering Morlock names. But he's died, and she's upset about it, and he's saying, run, you have to get away, you can't save me. And he's staying there, about to die, when a crew rolls up. We don't know who these people are yet, but it's the Marauders, and they summarily execute him. As she's escaping.
And she escapes by folding herself flat as a sheet of paper. So she has to be like, her name is like Ream or Hammermill.
Hammer. 30 pound
30 pound off-white.
Triple punch. Yeah. The legal.
Imagine naming yourself Triple Punch and then like getting into a fight and they're like, wait,
hold up.
Where are the punches?
Have you seen these stylish holes I have on my side? Put me in a binder. So she escapes, and this is all part of the Marauders' plan.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And they reference like, I hope Malice is having as much fun with her excitement or her assignment. And we cut over to dyed hair Dazzler, who always throws me. Struggling with a Moog keyboard case, which I would love to see what keyboard's inside there.
Yeah, go to that synthesizer YouTube channel. Who that English dude that just collects synthesizers and demonstrates how to use them. Like, this is Dazzler, and she made this song on it.
I
love it.
She's with her new band here. And they're all like, hey, we've done all of our roadieing and stuff for the day. Let's party. The band's going to get down and get busy. She doesn't want to do it.
Yeah.
She's not feeling it.
And she kind of snaps at him. But she's under a lot of pressure because the reason her hair has dyed is that she's not Dazzler, because Dazzler has been outed as a mutant, and mutants it's not cool to be a mutant right now. So she's pretending to be Lila Cheney, she's basically pretending to be somebody else. And this is putting a whole lot of pressure on her, which we get via a whole lot of text as her thought bubbles. And just kind of giving us the shape of the land when, surprise, Malice jumps out of the mirror. And kind of starts choking her. And then what happens is we get a panel that just says the words "get away" as Dazzler lashes out. And then as she wakes up, she thinks like, Malice is gone. And she's like, oh, I made this blast so intense that it I passed out. But then she kind of comments like, oh, I like this choker that I have on now. without realizing that Malice was the one that put it on her.
Yeah. I cannot remember Malice's direct relationship to the choker. I think she just hides out in it.
Sure.
And then pops out to control people, but it's very funny that she digimorphs into like a piece of jewelry, haunted jewelry. Malice is one of the weirder Marauders that doesn't show up a lot of times in like Marauder reboot stuff, probably because of her power being a magic necklace.
In Supernatural, a dude as a ghost like died, and his like hold on the earth was like a flask that he drank out of because I guess he was an alcoholic.
Okay.
And like there was a joke where they were like, well, you know, we don't want the ghost interfering with us, so we'll just leave the flask and leave the room. And I feel like that same thing has happened to Malice several times where somebody's just been like, oh yeah, see you later, Malice, we're just gonna put the choker in the bathroom and bye.
She's woken up in so many Goodwills. Like, fuck.
Why does this keep happening?
Just biding her time. I'm imagining a camera panning across a bunch of stuff in a Goodwill until it gets to a choker that has like big like twinkly eyes. You know, like big googly eyes, like
we're making jokes, but this exact thing happened to Ant-Man in Endgame. Like this is how he spawned in Endgame. He just showed up.
Very true, actually. The hire us. We cut over to Manhattan here, and Rogue flying through it here. And she notices the new X Factor building here. This is around the time where the X-Men, this might be the first time the X-Men and X Factor meet each other. They don't reveal each other's secret to each other just yet, I don't think.
Mm-mm.
But
and she's flying around looking for the Phoenix, not Jean Grey Phoenix, but Rachel Summers Phoenix. There was just a fight, and it seems like Rachel like just jetted in the middle of it and kind of left them to fend for themselves. So she's like ripped up. She's got ripped up clothing, and she's kind of thinking like, you know, it was probably my fault, but also she's an X-Men. We're a team. We should be together. And then she sees like some dudes falling off of a catwalk, I guess is what you would call it.
Some scaffolding.
And she does the X-Men thing. She goes over there and like, you know, saves the scaffolding first because that's going to be dangerous, and then saves the people, which is very funny to me. I mean, it makes sense. Yeah, but
I would love to just re-dialogue this comic with like, scaffolding is valuable. And have her scream that out. Like, somebody worked really hard on this.
I can't let their insurance premiums go up.
You know, she lands, and the person who saved her is just very like smitten with her. You know, because this big strong woman came and saved you out of the sky, and she's all torn up like a barbarian at this point. And he's like, I could kiss you, and she's, you know, haha, Rogue. You know, I would like that kiss, any kiss, but I don't dare. The instant anyone's flesh touches mine. Like, she's just restating things for us.
Yes.
Here. And similar to Dazzler, she looks in her reflection and is like, I look awful.
Yeah, this sucks.
I was really expecting another Malice to pop out of here. This is where Lady X-Men look at the mirror and they're like, ugh. And then Malice gets them. But instead we get a fashion show.
Yeah.
Here she decides to get new threads.
Guest artist Kevin Wada makes an appearance to give us all the fashion that we need. Oh, I wish. And this is very cute. I actually really like the third outfit that she decides on, like the green top and the light green top and like the big chunky belt in the middle. The red one makes her look like a flight attendant,
like a fucking future stewardess. Yeah, like she's gonna welcome us to a space station.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's really bizarre. She's you know, she's buying stuff. She walks up to the makeup counter like, can you save this face? It's real cute. They put on way too much makeup.
Oh yeah.
And they cake her up like a weird doll. And people are looking at her and they recognize her as one of the X-Men. She was flying around and stuff. And eventually a bigot comes in and yells at her, and the guy who she saved leaps to her defense.
Yep.
Like it's all, you know, good fun classic X-Men shit. Yeah.
We get a little bit more like, while all of this is happening, the guy is like kind of threatening her, saying, I'll call X Factor and they'll deal with you. So we don't really, if coming into this cold, we don't really know what like X Factor's role is yet. But you know, it's kind of hinted that they are dealing with mutant problems. And instead of
it's
this,
hinted, and then she flies past a bus ad that spells it out.
yes, also that.
I love it with just Cyclops on it.
Is that just Cyclops? Is that just like a like he just went to a photo booth and got a non-smiling picture of himself to put on a bus? Like that's
Yep. It's just Cyclops.
This definitely feels like Beast is like doing the graphic design is my passion as far as the billboard design goes. You know what I'm saying? Like
it's so much text for the side of a bus.
So much text, dude. It's
like
so
this was flying by. It's like mute what? Like
there's a really
nerd.
awful billboard in Baton Rouge right now, and I think it's funded by the police, but it's definitely funded by like government people or something. And it says it's very similar to this. There's a headline that says there are no violent weapons, only violent people. And I'm like, well, first off, that's not true. But then there's just like, and I'm on the interstate doing 70 miles an hour, and I'm just like, and I'm like, there's like 10 lines of text underneath it, kind of. I mean, probably, assumedly trying to justify that there are no violent weapons thing, and I'm like it's just so small. And I'm like, why are you doing this? This is dumb.
You're supposed to stop and salute it.
I guess, dude.
And then read it as one tear falls from your eye and you hum the national anthem.
Also, I'm just begging people to look up the definition of weapon because
this ad that she passes, it kind of explains X Factor a little bit. It says mutant investigations and resolutions. Do not be fearful. You just call our team of experts and we'll come. We'll talk about X Factor's whole thing next issue. But she's flying home. She passes. We cut over to home where Illyana is in her room, or in Colossus's room, and Colossus comes in here.
Yep.
To check in on her.
He's wearing his original X-Men uniform, which he calls New Wave, which is very funny to me. Colossus is such a dork. Growing up, I never realized how dorky Colossus was. I just assumed that he was strong. And because he had this extremely problematic relationship with Kitty Pryde, like I wanted to have when I was 13, I was like, oh, he's the coolest guy. Like, it's totally fine.
Yeah. I love it when he's just a fucking art nerd.
Yeah, me too, man. It's very funny.
It's great. I mean, it sounds like a weird thing to say, but like a lot of the joy of reading 70s and 80s X-Men is just how much these guys suck.
Yeah, they're just fucking
they're
dorks.
Fucking dorks. They're not good at this.
So good.
It's just love to watch them fail. The superheroes don't fail thing is more modern. That's like the last 10 years or so. Yeah. But even like I'm reading old Avengers shit. I started reading the Kang Dynasty last night because I realized I had never read it, and it's one of the new Avengers movies and stuff. And it's late 90s, and like this whole like Captain America cannot fail, he can only be failed is new. He's fucking up constantly. All of them are fucking up. Kang and Kang's shitty son just comes down and just bodies them instantly, no problem. It's we're the Avengers. Who fucking cares? So he's angsting around all this stuff and talking to Illyana, talking about Rachel.
Yes.
They're very upset about what happened. They got into a fight. I can't remember who they fought with, but everyone's still kind of reeling from that.
Nimrod is the answer to
Nimrod.
that. Yeah. And also of note, Nightcrawler disappeared. They don't know if he's alive or dead either. So everyone is kind of like upset, and they're talking about Kitty specifically being like kind of blaming herself for all this. Kitty, meanwhile, is using her phasing powers extremely carefully to reassemble and tweak Cerebro. I really like the idea that she can like phase into a computer and then but phase just enough to grab something to bring into the computer to plug in. Like that's just a real neat, like everyday use of powers that I can dig.
Every year since I was like 15, when I've had to do work putting together a cabinet or something, and I've had to be up under a desk, it's gotten harder.
Oh yeah.
Every single year. If I could just phase into it, like this is Kitty's best power. Imagine her putting together an entertainment center and it just being the easiest thing in the world.
I'm just picturing every time I have to kneel down. This is gonna be old man chat for a little bit, but every time I have to kneel down, I could just phase through the floor and then just open it. And you know what I'm saying? Like never have to kneel down again. I can get right into the back of those cabinets. Absolutely. Yeah, just sink down to where your waist, you're like a centaur, but instead of a horse body, you have the floor. Oh man, finding that last sponge underneath the sink just got a whole lot easier. This is great. Oh my God. The ergonomics of being Kitty Pryde would be incredible. Absolutely. Like she's going to make a great old woman someday. She is modifying Cerebro so it works with for not just telepaths, so that anybody can use it, which is a cool thing. And then she's also doing some angsting because she's all of the X-Men are a little kind of thrown by this fight that they had with Nimrod. And she's interrupted, of course, by Colossus and Ileana, and she kind of like it's basically like, oh, I want an ice cream sundae, and Peter is like, oh, that's disgusting, and I'm like, how is it? I mean, maybe you don't want one, but it's not disgusting.
Ileana says it. It's not Peter. It's real weird. Like the other little girl's like, fudge quad scoop sundae banana split. Gross. And then Colossus like, do not change the subject, kitty. It's very funny. Not disgusting.
Yes.
But yeah, she's going off about Rachel. Rogue was like, oh, this is my fault. I have to help Rachel. I have to, save her and find her. Kitty's mad at Rachel. Yeah. Like, she abandoned us. We needed her. We almost died. Maybe Nightcrawler has died, but the Phoenix just thought of herself. Jetted out. Bullshit.
And this whole thing is interrupted when the newly activated Cerebro goes off. So there's the
bip alarm.
The bip alarm goes off.
Bip.
And then we're going to go check in on the current leader of the team, Magneto, who is floating down to the street on beams of magnetic force, and then uses his special metal fiber, comfortable as cloth, resilient as body armor suit to change it into just a normal 3-piece, which is I mean, I know we have to have excuses for everything, and I comic books are famous for that, but man, that's just you're just wearing metal clothing. That's dope, I guess.
And your your Magneto powers allow you to change the color and shape of it.
Yeah.
Which is not what metal does. This is also the era of Magneto where he just wore the full length like magenta suit with a huge collar. It's not even the big M. It with the sleeveless. It's like his whole body is covered.
Yeah, it's not particularly good.
Yeah. It's he needs to make sure nobody sees him. You've heard of no homo, but no homo superior. Yeah. But he's landing outside the Hellfire Club.
Yep.
Here.
And this is nearby where the fight between that the X-Men just had is, and on the streets the cops have requested X Factor, and we see the team for the first time in their little matching uniforms. And it's just clear, like at first sight, that they're all the original X-Men. Like this is who they are. Like Cyclops is wearing red glasses, Jean has red hair. There's a guy with like obvious wings stuffed into a backpack or whatever. Like this is everybody thinks that these are like mutant hunting like humans, and it's like no. Those are just. They're all wearing matching uniforms. No humans do that if they can get out of it. I promise.
Those are X-Mans. You've seen X-Mans before. The Magneto lands and he notices like it's X Factor. That's real weird. X Factor sees him, is like, oh shit, it's Magneto. And then Magneto's like, oh shit, those are the X-Men. They can't believe they betrayed Charles Xavier's ideals with this. Because as far as he knows, they left for a while and then these guys came back and these guys are bad guys. They hunt down mutants.
Yes.
He's heading into the Hellfire Club here, where they're sitting at their dorky card table, basically. And they're talking about how powerful they are. And basically they're inviting Magneto to join. Do you want to be the White King of the Hellfire Club? And Magneto says, fuck you and fuck this shit.
Yeah.
You guys are constantly being dicks.
Yeah, you guys suck. Like, the White Queen constantly tries to kill my students, like almost all the time.
The Black Queen is Selene or whatever. She tries to kill the X-Men all the time. Mm-hmm. Like, none of this stuff is okay. And she's like, oh no, the Phoenix tried to murder me. And he's like, oh, she probably had a good reason. They're all fighting.
Yeah. But Sebastian gives his pitch, which is like, hey, we've been on the opposite sides, but there's something different coming along, and we need to work together so that we can both survive. Like, we're all mutants, basically. Like, we need to sort this out so that we can figure out how to deal with the accursed X Factor, which is just very funny. Yes.
Yeah, well, there's 5 guys in matching outfits. We got to get them. But basically, pragmatic approach here. And Magneto says he'll think about it. and he'll have the X-Men think about it. We cut over to a warehouse on the Hudson River where people are chasing a mutant, and it's revealed this is Nightcrawler in kind of a shadow of his first appearance.
Yes.
He's being chased by an angry mob, this time in a warehouse instead of in Munich. They're throwing bottles at him and shit. And just as he's getting overwhelmed, Magic, Kitty Pryde, and Colossus teleport in.
Yep.
Since they found him on Cerebro.
Ilyana still looks like she's just wearing her hangout clothes. Like none of them came in uniform, but she specifically for some reason just looks like she's wearing like pajama pants for some reason.
Yeah. she's going down to the plaid pantry.
Kitty says like, hey, grab him and go, let's get the fuck out of here, but Peter is going to make this a teachable moment, so he jumps down in between Nightcrawler and this approaching mob and starts like basically telling them off like, hey, is he some sort of criminal? Like, why does he deserve this? And eventually Kitty jumps up too after they say like, he's a monster, and he's like, oh really? Like he just looks like a monster, and then talks about how her whole family was murdered in gas chambers because the Nazis said the Jews were monstered because it was quote unquote obvious. It's really like I told Autumn as I started reading this because she was asking me what we were doing for the show, and I was like, I don't know if it's 100% for sure, but there's definitely a moment where Kitty Pryde like compares the word beauty to the N word, and I hope that's not what we have to deal with on the podcast. Like I hope that's not in this, and she's like, I hope not too. And she's like, does she say the N word or does she say the word? I'm like, oh no, it is clearly spelled out, hard R at the end. It's not like it's the whole thing. And she's like, in a comic book? I'm like, Chris Claremont was crazy, homie.
it was the 70s. It was the 80s. It's so the scene is so funny about this because like obviously that's the metaphor, that they have, and Kitty's right that they should not hate the mutants, and there are parallels, with the Holocaust, all fair. At the same time, like that. Boy, I don't even know. I don't know if I want to get into these weeds.
Yeah, we do not have to.
Yeah, we don't have to. It's just it's funny for other reasons too. It's very funny to me that Colossus is like, oh, I'm just so frustrated by this bigotry. Why are you being a bigot? And the X-Men do this every issue. Like a different X-Men takes a turn just being like, why can they not understand us? And at some point, like, you just never just accept that people are kind of shitty.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
I went. I worked. My first job was working at a telephone survey place, and there was like this. You'd call and we had to ask people very intrusive questions about their health, for the state, and people hated that, of course. And worked with a guy, this little nerd, and every time somebody would hang up, he'd go, "She hung up on me." And like to everyone around. It's like that's what we're getting paid to do, man.
Yeah.
Like of course she did. It happens to me 100 times a day. How are you not used to it yet? Colossus is like that. This sweet little himbo.
And Kitty Pryde is too, because she steps up here and does the same thing. It's I think that at this point people hadn't quite realized that the metaphor wears thin after a little bit, and especially extending it to like where like she feels like she can use the N word is very hilarious to me. And she's fake. She's a made up character. Yeah, absolutely.
That's why she shouldn't do that. It's this weird thing where it's like if Kitty Pryde were a real person and we're making this argument and we're suffering oppression, that that's arguable. Just Chris Claremont inventing somebody to do this thing is not.
Wait, so are we saying that Chris Claremont invented Rachel? What's that chick's name? Rachel Dolezal?
Rachel
Dolezal in the 80s? Oh my god, I hate this timeline. Bring on Age of Apocalypse already.
The Age of Doziel. Oh no. I also, this made me wonder, and I'm sure it has happened, but do you know if Kitty and Magneto have ever compared notes about both being Jewish people very affected by the Holocaust?
Oh, I'd be super curious about that. Yeah, I don't remember a panel offhand, but like that would be because she is so I think she I mean, we've never explored this in any other media but the comics, but like it's something that she holds on to in the comics quite a bit. And I would be real curious, like since he lived through that, if that was something that she can, if they have ever talked about, right? Because I feel like she, especially with the White Queen, she has so much bad history with the White Queen that she never ever trusts Emma, and that like relationship, like that lack of a relationship, I guess, extends even into the modern day comics quite a bit. But I've never seen that with Magneto.
It's like the defining, it's her defining villain relationship. But I feel like they have a lot to talk about.
Yeah, absolutely. You know? This ends with everybody all of the humans get told off and they learn a lesson and they go home and watch the Cosby Show and everybody's happy. And then the big reveal though is that Nightcrawler can't teleport. He's lost his powers for some reason. Whatever he went through has sapped him from the ability to teleport. Yeah.
This is not going to be. He's going to be shitty at it for a while.
Yeah.
You know. We head over to Wolverine and Storm, the last two major X-Men here who haven't checked in on this issue. We're also looking for Rachel. That's what everyone's doing. They're checking the Shakespeare in the Park festival.
Yeah, of course.
To see if Rachel's taking a show. There's nobody there now, you know. But this is where the trail leads. You know, this is where the scent is, and this is where she disappeared. You know, Wolverine cannot follow, and Storm says, you know, is there nothing we can do? And Wolverine, being a badass, is like, I figure I did enough when I nearly killed her. You know, she was trying to murder the Black Queen. Should I have lit her?
Yeah.
Do it. You know, and he's basically, everyone's just angsting in this issue. Big angsty issue. Wolverine's doing the thing of like, you know, is this ends justify the means? You know, should I be the weapon I am or whatever? And Storm reminding him to be a human and live for the dream.
Yeah.
You know?
And you know, hey, you don't have to do that. Like, we're a team, and you know, you should follow my lead, and you should live by these ideals. And no matter what happens, like, I'm just going to need you there. And they kind of hold hands, like grasp hands, and he says, "I will be all the way to the end." And I like this a lot because it's kind of at the time, like Storm and Cyclops right before this had some like back and forth about who should be the team leader, and it just like a show of solidarity that Wolverine's just like, "Yep, you got this." Is nice.
Yep. I like it a lot. We cut back to our flat lady,
Tommy,
from the beginning.
They finally named her.
Yeah, could not remember her name. She was making her way back from LA. You know, she riding the rails to the Morlocks, and she gets there only to get a zap in the back as well.
Yeah,
because the Marauders let her go to follow her.
To find more mutants, and they kill her. We see a big old boom as they shoot her, presumably in the face. And we are teased with next Massacre, which is going to continue in X Factor 12, I think.
No, number 9.
Number 9, my bad. Sorry.
Yeah, number 9. No, it's and this we keep hinting about. You can finally explain X Factor. So like Scott Summers, you know, Phoenix. Everyone thought she died. She went into a space cocoon at the bottom of the ocean. Scott Summers met a woman named Madeline Pryor who looked exactly like Jean and just immediately married her.
Yeah.
I think we can all relate. No, we can't. Everyone, this is the reason why everyone hated Scott for forever. He did this, and then Jean came back, and he was just like, oh, what do I do? There's 2 identical women who I love. And Jean convinced him to leave his wife and child to keep working on Xavier's dream. And that is how X Factor started. The concept of X Factor is that they pretend to be mutant hunters, but when somebody calls and says, hey, I got a mutant, they actually go over there and go like, hey, we're actually on your side. And then recruit the mutant, and they become something called the Exterminators. This is like where Richter came from, is probably the biggest name mutant who's still around from that era. But this is also like Rusty and Skids and Artie and Leech and a bunch of little fucked up little freaks.
Bunch of little guys
joined.
Just a bunch of little guys.
Yeah.
And so we're going to jump in X Factor number 9, which shows the X-Men or the X Factor team in their Exterminator uniforms, which are different than the dorky human uniforms, fighting what is clearly the Brotherhood of Evil, and also Spider-Woman, who is I totally forgot was in the Brotherhood of Evil for a while
at this point. But yeah, I forgot. The Exterminator. So these Exterminators, when it's not Rusty Collins, or when they pretend to be mutant terrorists. So when they have to do superhero stuff, they dress up as these Exterminators, but that's also who Rusty Collins and Skids and Richter are.
Yep.
So it's pretty confusing. At this point, so these guys, the Brotherhood. This was Freedom Force, which is where the government offered the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants a pardon in exchange for doing their bidding, basically.
Yes, for going to collect mutant criminals, quote unquote.
Yep.
And this is the pretty classic Brotherhood team, right? It's led by Mystique, and we've got Blob and Pyro and Avalanche and Spider-Woman. Everyone definitely remembers this.
Yes. She's always in the Evil Mutants.
Absolutely, yeah. Are you up on any of the Battle of the Atom stuff after like the there's a like when they bring the young X-Men into the future or into like the present, I guess, they get invaded by a future Brotherhood of Evil. And it's like shitty Xavier's child, shitty Wolverine's kid. Like it's those like Ray's, I think is the shitty Wolverine kid. And it's just, man, like they're just shitty Brotherhood of Evil. Like they're not cool at all. Like Zorn is there. That chick, the Molly from the Runaways is like all like grown up and looks like she's an Overwatch character for some reason. Like it's just really fucking weird, man. And the big twist. Well, I won't go into the big twist, but it's just a very weird time that made me like reminisce of like, oh, the Brotherhood of Evil just used to be a bunch of fucks, and I like a bunch of fucks doing some fucking
mercenary
stuff.
Assholes.
Yeah.
Just douchebags who don't want to get executed by the state, and will do anything to not be. I really like Mystique whenever she uses her powers for fun.
Yes.
It starts with them converging on Rusty and Skids here, and since they're representing the government, she turns into Uncle Sam.
Of course.
God, I would do that all the time if I were Mystique.
Oh my God, dude.
Like, how come Mystique and Wolverine don't get along better? Because he loves that shit.
He loves that. He loves. I mean, Morph was one of his favorite people of all time, so like he has to
Maybe
love
that's why
this
he doesn't
stuff.
like her.
What if Mystique turned into the Hamburglar at a moment's notice? You know what I'm saying?
Ooh,
right?
I would do it whenever I eat a hamburger. If I were Mystique.
Every single, I would go to McDonald's and just be the hamburger. Like that would be like a solid year after I discovered my powers, is going to the restaurant and pretending to be to while I order food.
It's the big boy. Do we have to like everybody who's working there straightens their tie and shit? Because a photorealistic big boy showed up.
Oh my God, it's Jack and he's in a box.
And just like everyone's like, oh shit, sir.
Sir, yes, sir.
Come right this way.
The tacos are not greasy enough. Put more grease in those tacos, son.
There's something you can do to add tater tots to this taco.
Oh man,
sure.
Yeah, I've never thought about that before, but turning into a mascot as a shapeshifter is very hilarious to me. Like that's
very funny. Like, oh shit, Mayor McCheese is here. Flush the drugs.
Yeah,
And
there would be a weird moment where you would think that the Mayor McCheese is an outfit, and then like the more you look at it, you're like you slowly realize like with creeping horror that it's actually like skin and fur, and you're just like completely weirded out. Oh my God.
If let's say I get this power, okay, and you are willing to eat a small amount of hair, you and I can have a very good time, because what I will do is I'll be Mayor McCheese, and you can be like Deputy Fries or whatever, and then I will make my hair turn into a part of my burger face, and then when somebody's like, you're just a costume, you can then take a knife to my face, peel off a piece of bread,
and just eat it.
Yeah. And just be like, no, he's the real fucking deal.
This is like
and then we could get dissected on a government table.
This is the third, I think the second or third time that I've been on a Duckfeed podcast where we start talking about cannibalism. Like me and Cole had a whole thing on the Venture Brothers episode where I was like, and somebody added me on Twitter about it. It's like, are you just like saying that cannibalism is cool? I'm like, no, I'm just saying that I wouldn't be bothered about it if I heard about it later. That's all I'm saying. I think it's a good point.
Just hair. That's not cannibalism.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's still gross. I don't know if I would eat your hair, though, Gary. I'm going to be real honest with you. Like,
even to really freak out some minimum wage
some teenagers, some poor people
who
are just desperately trying to make a job.
Man.
I feel like that's not. I feel like that's just two steps above like the drive-through pranks that you see on fucking TikTok nowadays. Like, it's not. Yeah. I would want to. I guess we should go to the McDonald's headquarters and make that joke.
I'm going to correct you and say it's more than two steps above, because it involves magic shapeshifting.
Okay, well, that's fair.
That's many steps.
That's some steps above that. Yes, yeah. I guess you're right.
Yeah.
Oh man.
But yeah, it'd be incredible to show up at McDonald's as the Hamburglar. Like, yeah. Anywho, they're arresting Rusty and Skids. Rusty shoots fire.
Mm-hmm.
Skids can do force fields and then can slide around on them. There's no friction on their force fields. That's them. They these two hung around the periphery of X-Men for like 10 years. They're a big part of the first X-Force arc and stuff too. Like they end up becoming acolytes, but they never did anything.
Yeah,
they're such weird characters.
They seem boring in this, right? Like they're just like two people or whatever. And as all of this is happening, as the Foundation is like, you know, they're having this fight, avalanches causing, you know, earthquakes, and they're trying to get away. Here come Human X-Factor.
Yes.
Just running into the park all dressed up.
Yeah, these fucking outfits. Look, a crowd. Let's see what it's about. They're running. They're there, and they're talking about I hope Rusty's not over there.
Mm-hmm.
Because it'd be bad. You know, I have fantasies of Fifth Avenue in flames. Here, everyone is calling out like, "Oh, it's the mutant hunters," and they're contrasting. They go by some police, and the police are like, "Oh, you guys are here. You guys are great. Makes me proud to be human."
Yeah,
you know, the irony is just very thick.
Humans first, says NYPD.
No. And he said, he's like, "Why didn't you summon the Avengers?" He's like, "Yeah, because I don't trust them." Like, which is real weird. Here, they're talking to each other using psychic powers. Here. Or whispering. I can't tell what these word balloons mean, but they're just like, isn't this fucking weird? They don't know that we're X-Factor. Like, this is issue 9, motherfuckers. Like, you get used to something.
Yeah, this is going to happen quite a bit. But they're all distracted because this is, as we mentioned earlier, like we're going to see several of these like scenes from different angles. This is when Magneto is entering the Hellfire Club, and they spot Magneto, and Jean's like, "Let's go fuck him up right now."
Love it. It's Magneto. We've got to punch him.
Yeah. I mean, he's wearing a normal suit. He could just be a guy. I don't know, but let's go punch him in his face.
There's an old man.
And Jean makes the point of like, he's a villain.
They should all get on a newsletter. Like, he's running the school.
Yeah.
You guys not know this at this point?
Hey, dude, there's no Facebook. It's hard to keep up with.
Yeah,
folk.
I guess that's true.
The best way to keep up with everybody was like the yearly Christmas card. Like,
yeah, I would like to see the Magneto Christmas card that he sends with the New Mutants and the X-Men, just sternly looking. I guess X-Factor wouldn't get one. You know, well, I guess this is where he finds out who they are.
Warren Worthington seems like a Christmas card kind of dude. Like, I could see him. Yeah. I could see him going hard on the paint on like, and then Beast. I mean, Hank.
That is true.
And they're building this thing where the X-Factor believe that since Magneto is running the X-Men, that all of the X-Men have been compromised. And they just believe this, and they do not pick up a telephone or send a card and like ask Wolverine anything. Like, they just believe it. And
they straight up, they see him going into the building, and they're like, he's taking the place of Xavier and the X-Men, and the X-Men's new leader just openly joined the villainous Hellfire Club. Like, you know, he fucking joined it.
Yeah,
he just goes in to say no. Jesus, Scott. Yeah.
Then they remember that they have to actually go save Rusty and his kids. So we cut over to those two who are running through the park when they get trapped up by Spider-Woman's webs. And here comes the Blob. The Blob has like a real blob attitude about this whole thing. Like, all he really wants to do is just fuck people up. Like, that's all he's focused on right here. Which is fun. I like that for him.
Yeah. I kind of love the Blob.
I do too.
For that.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, it's real good. So they're he doesn't burn. You know, Rusty's shooting him with fire. You know, it doesn't work. Pyro's there as well, fucking with the fire. But then he gets a rock in the head because the people have risen up, inspired by X-Factor. To these people, like, hey, these guys must be bad guys. They're not the Fantastic Four. Look at them. You know, at one point they're like, you know, the Fantastic Four aren't all bad. The Fantastic Four ain't muties. Says who? I don't know. Everyone's real dumb.
Yeah.
In this issue.
Yeah.
Everyone forgot everything.
The crowd work of just everybody hating mutants. It's just very like it's just they're doing so much to like belabor the point that it's just like, okay, we get it. We yeah. Okay. Yeah.
It's coordinated enough to show the same event from multiple angles, but not enough so they are like, okay, did you cover this point? Okay, I don't have to cover it.
Exactly.
You know?
Mystique decides to handle the situation. First step, transform from being Uncle Sam back into Mystique, which is
like, whoa. I'm actually an evil lady with skulls on her belt.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not
totally
I'm not
safe. I
the
work for
father
the
of this country.
government.
Yeah.
I have skulls on my belt.
Yeah. And I love Destiny saw a vision of Mystique getting hit in the head with something, so dives to push her out of the way of a bottle.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's real small ball for seeing the future.
Don't step there. There's some poison ivy. Thank you, Destiny. I appreciate it.
Oh, I am indebted. Blob stands in front. They're throwing eggs now. Everyone brought eggs.
Of course they did.
Here, you know. And Blob gets sick of this shit and just like slaps somebody out of the way. You know, Mystique's trying to maintain control, but Blob's like, hey, they're fucking throwing eggs at us. Like, what are we gonna do? Let them bury us in eggs? You know, this distraction is enough for Rusty and Skids to kind of recover while X Factor shows up.
Blob just drastically overestimating the amount of eggs it would take to bury him, I think. Like, I mean, that would be like at least a dozen eggs. So
yeah. What are they gonna do? Find all the eggs in the city? Put them into a big vat?
Ridiculous.
Batter me up and fry me? Eat me dick first? What is it, Mystique? What's going to happen?
The X Factor shows up and sees everybody like stoning them and throwing eggs and tries to put a stop to it. And the humans are like, well, why should they get all of the fun? If, you know, why should you get all of the fun? Like, we would have hurt some mutants too.
It's I like that Jean uses her powers to shield them from the eggs and stuff, and Scott just like, it's a high-tech force screen. I don't know why any mutant has not thought of this before. Just like, and Mystique goes to arrest him, you know, or the people who fucked with him. Like, we were doing government work. Here's my government ID. We're attempting to apprehend a felon, and you fucked with it.
Yes.
You know, this is the big reveal. However, while this has happened, Rusty and Skids have gotten away.
Yep. And they are headed into the sewers. Skids is going to take him to the Morlocks. But we're got to finish up with some mutants first, because we only get a couple of panels of that, and we go right back to the park.
Yep. Basically, just them not really talking, you know, and not just really fighting. Like, Freedom Force, like, hey, we have government immunity, we're gonna leave. And X Factor being like, this sucks. We should. I hate that we have to let them leave. You know, but at least Rusty escaped for now. But they are going to be in pursuit. Destiny saw where Rusty went.
Yes. And the X Factor gets I can't remember this chick's name now, but it's one of Claremont's Trish Tilby. It's one of Claremont's kind of pet characters, where she's a news reporter and she wants to, you know, hey, does the X Factor stand for this? Like, not for vigilantism, despite advertising, certainly not for murder. Like, you know, she's basically questioning them on their morals, which, like, hey, good, somebody should probably do that.
Questioning Beast specifically, and they dated.
Yeah,
I can't remember if they've dated at this point or they're going to date. We didn't mention this, but Beast is in his human form.
Yes,
at this point, or he's using an image endosser. He just looks like a guy. He's the only one who looks at all like he's in disguise. They decided to jet.
Yes,
you know, it hits the bricks. Let's go.
And they
go back to their X Factor complex here.
And this is where we meet Artie. Who is a young dude who has a different physical appearance. He's got some big bug eyes and a fleshy head. And his power is the ability to like create these things that he sees from far away, to create these like projections of things that he can see. And so he sees that Rusty and Skids, and he's kind of bonded with Rusty a little bit, but he sees that they are in trouble from the Brotherhood, and he rushes to tell everybody's best friend, Cameron Hodges, about it, and is immediately just thrown out of Cameron Hodges's office. He's like, get the fuck out of here, you little weirdo. I'm on the phone.
This place is crawling with little monsters.
I'm paying $3.99 a minute for this. I can't afford you distracting me.
And Artie just projects a phone card, like a 1-800-COLLECT commercial. The Cameron Hodge was their government liaison for X Factor, and a friend of Warren Worthington, who turned out to run a really shitty anti-mutant organization, and is the primary villain behind the very first X-Men crossover I read, and one that I love and will do someday, which is the Extinction Agenda.
Yes.
He made a deal with a demon to become immortal, and became a really cool, creepy monster for that, because he just hates mutants. Nothing particularly deep about him, but it was a long con. Like, he seems like a good idea. This is kind of hinting to us that there's something going on with him. You'd be nice to the little monster boy.
Yeah.
You know, they all escape. they get back. Artie shows X Factor what happened. He drew his projection on the wall.
Yeah, he's gonna go after Rusty himself, but he wants to like leave a trail for the X Factor, so he traces his projection on the wall, which also very cool, like really cool, like use of powers there. I think like it's just really it's just a neat thing. So of course the X Factor show up, see this, that are like, oh shit, he did all of this, and now he's going to the Morlock tunnels. We got to go after him because he's just a little kid. And sure enough, that's what happens because he immediately runs into Leech in the subway, because I don't know if you know this, Gary, but every X-Men hideout is connected to the subway tunnels everywhere. Everywhere it just happens. It's the way that subways
love the
work.
way subways work in this.
Yeah.
Video games are right.
Mm-hmm.
Leech is another little monster. And he has bumps on his head, and when he's around, you can't use your powers.
Yeah.
One of my first exposures to Leech was reading very early internet Usenet stuff, and somebody did an FAQ about the X-Men, and a frequently asked question that they answered in it was why Gamma and Rogue don't just have Leech hang out while they have sex. And the person who answered was just like, well, either like, even if we put aside the ethics of using a little kid as a sex aid, in fact, let's not put aside those ethics.
Yeah, let's just keep those ethics full and foremost. Like,
yeah, it's probably not good to be like, hey, can you play Game Boy and face the wall and put in headphones?
I guess noise canceling headphones and like a thin wall, like so they're not in the same room. But I think the problem with it is no matter what you do, like you're still like you're doing it with the intent of using the child, which is basically abuse at that point. Like you're just using the child for your own sexual gratification, even if you're not touching the child at all. Like it's still a thing. So
a child condom.
Yeah.
Like specifically it's weird.
So it's a terrible way to refer to it as, actually.
Leech, can you pull me out right at the moment?
Cole,
it's very weird.
I made a tweet about Wolverine one time, and Cole asked me if I thought that Wolverine had a moral obligation to like donate like organs or be a skin transplant person or whatever, and I'm like, I think he was just saying it to be funny, but it just really made me think, like, why are you being so mean to Wolverine? Like, he's been through a lot. like that's not. Don't we have a moral obligation to not morally obligate people to be that like a fucking like human growth bat or whatever? Like,
especially somebody who's been through as much as James Owlett.
Yeah, that dude.
Let's get you started here with the origin.
Have you not read The Death of Wolverine? It is badly. It's bad.
So he goes on the sewer, runs into that. X Factor are going to put on their X-Terminator's outfit.
Yeah.
To go into the sewer. Do this and try to find him, including Angel saying his famous catchphrase, "Let's get down and get funky."
Let's get down and get funky. Hell yeah. It amazes me all the time that the X-Men are so prominent in like hip hop from this era, and like hip hop and comic books are so closely intertwined, because like 80s comic books are fucking dorky, and it just makes me realize like rappers are a lot dorkier than you realize when you hear them.
I love it, man. It unlocked a lot of rap appreciation for me.
Yeah,
was realizing like, oh shit, we have a lot of this stuff in common.
Yeah,
like, it's so dorky and it's so unefficacious. Like they're so shitty. Again, like of this era, like they're constantly failing. Makes sense for MF Doom to be like, yeah, fucking Dr. Doom. But it's weird when people are just like, hell yeah, dude, X Factor. And this is X Factor.
There's a, I don't think they're still around anymore, but there was a group of like turntablists that styled themselves as the Executioners.
Okay.
And they did a whole album, and it was Mike Patton versus the Executioners. And it was basically Mike Patton doing weird voice stuff, and then they would just like do turntablism samples right back at him. And it's the weirdest fucking album that you ever heard. But like I listened to a lot of it because it was a lot of like X-Men samples. So it's a lot of like I Am Apocalypse on like from the weird like audio drama books or whatever. It's extremely fucking hilarious and probably unlistenable now. Like I'm sure if I went back, that shit would be
dorky.
Yeah, it'd be very bad.
Yeah, it's so beautifully dorky. These two little monsters are in the sewer, and they run into Caliban, who at this point is a little skinny, big-eyed guy. Basically the same one that just died in in that X-Force we just read. Like just a guy in a magenta jumpsuit.
And Caliban doesn't really like. Of course, Artie is here to tell them to warn them of trouble. And Caliban doesn't understand that at all because hey, he can't use his power. Like nobody can figure that. And that's when they hear a big screech. And that's where Rusty and Skids trip over Tommy's body and just like, what the fuck is going on? And then they realize they are still being followed by the Brotherhood of Evil because they see Mystique and Destiny and Spider-Woman. I'm just going to laugh every time I say it. And then Spider-Woman. And then Jessica is there.
Blob sneaks up behind them at this point and fucks him up. Like, just, like literally grabs Rusty and just slams his head into two walls, like fucking, like the Charger in Left 4 Dead.
Yeah. Thwack, thwack, crack,
Mystique
says Blob.
Mystique's like, hey, we have orders to bring him in alive. Don't do this. You're going to kill him. Like, this shit sucks. And he doesn't get stopped by Mystique. He gets stopped by Cyclops, zapping him in the wrist here. This is a classic superhero complaint. The Mutant Massacre really underlines how superheroes being afraid to kill just results in many, many, many deaths.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Here, because the number of times in this crossover people put down a Marauder, the Marauder is just like lying on the ground, like, forget about him, and then they move on, and then the Marauder gets up and kills somebody else.
Yep.
It happens like 10 times. It's incredible. It's happening here too, where they're trying to stop the Blob, who's trying to smash Rusty into paste by giving him some minor wrist pain.
Yeah. Good job on taking down, the Blob. And of course they're all recognized as X-Men immediately. And then they are going to arrest them, and there's a big fight. Spider-Woman shoots her webs all over the place, which makes this thing a fucking nightmare to try to figure out what's happening on any given panel.
Mm-hmm.
And the big kind of through line is Destiny warning Mystique constantly that they need to get the fuck out of here because she can see nothing but death if they stay.
Yeah, this is a bad sewer.
Mm-hmm.
They're going on. Skids is trying to get away with Rusty. That's all she cares about. Iceman is helping, and everybody is pulling their punches. At this point still. Like, Iceman, freezes Pyro, but he's not hurt or anything. He'll be fine. Cyclops busts him out. Even Beast kicks him. Like, everyone's using all of their powers on Pyro at this point. All the X-Men dogpile on him.
It would be really funny if they had just left him frozen, and then we got the Pyro. He just gets Captain America 60 years later, and he just wakes up. You know what I'm saying?
Everyone Iceman is ever frozen.
Yeah,
she just keeps showing up.
Just keeps showing up every once in a while, and they're all like, "But you got Iceman." Like, I got Iceman, dude. I got Iceman.
Dude, we need the 400th best super soldier. Unfreeze Pyro. Spider-Woman is making a big difference. This Spider-Woman, she doesn't shoot webs, she shoots energy webs. So they're still solid, but they stop people, and she can just generate them instantly. She's fucking everybody up.
Yes.
Down here. Just like not, again, not good at it. Everybody, they're fighting, but they're not doing great. They're doing okay. Until Destiny eventually says, no, listen, if we don't get out of here, we're going to die, and our Rusty who we're trying to get is going to die. Everyone's going to fucking die. Die. We got to go.
And that's where...
so she says, okay, we're getting out of here.
Mystique orders the retreat, and they kind of like blast the wall down to separate the two teams from one another. And then X-Factor or Mike Patton, the Executioners, whatever their name is in this one, the Exterminators, like find Rusty, and... like, he's alive, but he's very much out of it. And Cyclops says, like, hey, Angel, you and Jean take Rusty back up. We're going to stay and find Artie. And they're like, Kids is like, oh, I want to go too. And they're like, you're just going to slow us down. And she's like, no, I'm super fast. I can go. Okay, fine, let's go.
Yep. Because she slides around. Beast, Cyclops, and Iceman are down in the sewer. Still looking around, just like, oh man, I can't believe we saved Freedom Force. Those guys are assholes. We should have let the people stone them. But this is cut off by hearing a scream over in the Caliban, the little monster zone, Caliban, Leech, and Artie, as mutants start to die. We don't see this happen just yet. But this is them, hearing that the death has come.
Yep.
For them.
And then we switch. The last page is at the Pentagon where Mystique shows up and is trying to explain why they didn't bring in any mutants. And their kind of commander on this whole thing, Valerie Cooper, is saying like, "Hey, if you don't bring us results, you can get the fuck out. You need to do some stuff." And Mystique hatches the great plan of, I'm gonna poison their reputations in the newspaper. I'm gonna get them. I'm gonna send them to TMZ. Sick them, TMZ.
I'm gonna get Trish Tilby to say that Warren Worthington is X Factor. Get a rare appearance of Glasses Blob. I love Glasses Blob.
Do we? Where's
there?
Glasses Bob?
And
Oh yeah, look at that.
do you see him down there at the bottom
yeah.
of the page?
Oh, that means he's like, he's probably like just losing that short term vision. You know what I'm saying? He's probably like just hitting 40, losing that close up vision. Aw, poor Bob. Poor Blob. Poor me. While we're here.
So she's gonna spill the beans on X Factor. And then it says, next issue, Fallen Angel, collector's item, don't miss it. It is a very important issue of X-Men.
Yes.
Yeah. But first is Uncanny X-Men 211.
Yeah. Ooh, why is that not going to the first page? I thought this cover was really weird until I realized this was going to be like a recurring theme. Like the frame around it is just a bunch of Marvel superheroes, and I thought it was really weird because like the center panel is Wolverine just looking all like messed up, but then at the bottom is just another Wolverine. And I'm like, wait a minute, what are we doing here?
Or if this issue had this whole crew in it, like every hero in the Marvel universe shows up on this Club Cranium.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
But just a cool drawing of Wolverine, and we get our first reveal of the Marauders as a team here. With this issue Massacre. We're getting a ground level view. They're looking up at Scrambler, Arclight, Scalp Hunter, Vertigo, and Riptide.
Yeah.
Standing around. One of the worst designed teams in X-Men history. Scalp Hunter looks like shit. Harpoon looks like shit. Riptide looks like shit. I think bad designs.
It's hard for me.
A lot of them.
It's hard for me to come up with like worse designs than this. Like Harpoon, even his outfit is one thing, but then like just the weird haircut that he has. Yeah, like I hate that. That's not good.
Is meant to be, a indigenous person, from Alaska, and I think the artist just did not know what to do about that. so they made him like cut his own hair, and like they draw him like a like the Iceman, like the guy they thought out, the recreations of that guy. And I'm not saying anything about indigenous people. I think that the artist fucked up.
Yeah,
in this.
Absolutely. Yeah.
In this, but yeah, just like garbage looking crew.
Not good. And I don't even think like even just idea wise, like not great. Like, good. Scalp Hunter is mostly like metal, but it's just like a metal shirt. It's like metal pantsuit thing that he's got on. Like it's just ugly. Like it's just very, very bad.
There's almost the unifying feature is the one exposed shoulder. So Arclight, Vertigo, Harpoon, and Scalp Hunter all have the one exposed shoulder, and it looks so bad.
It is extremely bad. Yeah, I didn't.
Yeah, ugly team. This the important team. So these are the shit bags that Mr. Sinister recruits. Eventually they're going to get into these guys keep dying, and it's because Mr. Sinister just has backup clones of them.
Yeah.
Which is really great. I like them dealing with that. And this whole event that's about to kick off right in this issue, super important to X-Men lore. This is actually something that a bunch of cleaning up an experiment from Dark Beast from Age of Apocalypse. Again, everything tying into stuff we've done. Is the actual idea behind this, and all these dudes hired by Gambit. Before Gambit was about. So that is Gambit's like big sin, was gathering this crew of fuckwits and bad outfits.
So fucking weird, dude.
Yeah. It's a lore.
You gotta love canon.
Yeah. All lore is good lore.
If you say so. They arrive to the Morlocks and just start murdering people. One of the things about this is like most of these Morlocks they're basically nameless and faceless people. Like they all have like little identities, but like for the most part in the comics, they are just there to be murdered.
Yes. Some of them come back. Some of them are like featured players, like Tommy or Erg, but generally they're just getting shot. I like how there's an implied table boy shooting here, because they're all sitting around a table that immediately gets blown up first.
I didn't even think that could be Table Boy. You're absolutely right.
Scalp Hunter has guns, and he can reconfigure his gun into different types of guns using bits of garbage from his outfit.
Yeah.
Is his power. So he shoots. Riptide spins around in a circle. Real weird. Riptide, who is in the First Class movie, X-Men First Class movie, I think.
Oh yeah.
Little spinny tornado man. But this one, he specifically throws out miscellaneous sharp things.
Just little, they're not they're very specifically not throwing stars. I feel like somebody on the design was like, we can't make them to have throwing stars. Like that's too played out. Someone said.
They have varying numbers of points. There's 6-sided, 8-sided, and 10-sided ones.
So weird.
And then tiny little tridents.
The little trident is especially weird. But I will say, like, this murders folks. Like, this is a very powerful skill. Like, he is doing the Lord's work, killing a bunch of Morlocks with this.
He's certainly doing the Lord's work. Fuck these Morlocks. No, you're right. Like, it is, and also even it's hard to overstate. Like, bad guys killed people in comics at this point. This was the most characters, who some of which were named and some which could potentially be named, like important characters getting killed in one time that I had seen at the time, and was just like a really big deal, like killed without ceremony. Ordinarily when somebody gets killed, it's a big deal. These guys are just getting cut down.
Yeah.
Like metal hits them and they die like people. This big dude walks up. I think this is Sunder, is blocking the little metal pieces, and then Scrambler turns off his powers, so he's no longer invulnerable. The little pieces of metal get into his skin, and then Scalp Hunter shoots him.
Ouch. One woman escapes using her power of acid to melt the wall
acid
behind her.
Sweat.
Gotta love acid sweat, dude.
Yeah, real weird that got brought. Like, I thought that was really strange when the Anarchist had that power, and then bam, there's a Morlock that has it too. I forgot.
See, they go through the wall. The Marauders chase. He's trying to go for Callisto, but he gets harpooned instead. That much worse. Oh, the acid sweat was a chick. Not much worse than you can do being harpooned by a guy that's dressed like Harpoon. Like that's got to be the worst feeling in the world.
With Harpoon's haircut.
Yes.
Yeah. Kills him. More Morlocks show up. This is where Callisto shows up. That Morlock with the sweat was named Cybele. Callisto makes a threat. She's not a slouch, and they're just like, you are way over your league. Like, Vertigo makes them all super dizzy, or like knocks them down. Like, they are here to kill, not here to play, the way the other X-Men are.
We do get a brief frame where we see the mutant.
I love this dude,
Piper, who is playing a weird tune on his flute, Morlock, who is summoning sewer crocodiles and birds for some reason, bats, assumably. I feel like we don't see. Do we see the Crocs again? I feel like the Crocs. I feel like it's a gun that's never fired here.
We do. I think that they distract somebody.
Oh, okay.
But I think this is the end of Piper, which is sad. Because just having a pipe that sends a bunch of crocodiles at people I want this guy in the X-Men.
I want this guy in the Avengers. Come bring it, dude.
Yeah, dude.
This would be awesome.
This guy, like Avengers Piper.
Yeah.
Games, or something like that.
Piper, the 73rd Avenger in the MCU.
The Piper Dynasty. So he's sending in all of his alligators and bats in to distract the Marauders. We cut over to the school. Here, the School for Gifted Youngsters. Danny Moonstar from New Mutants is there with her Pegasus. Everyone else is doing farm work.
Yeah.
Here you get a rare appearance by Farmer Wolverine.
I love Farmer Wolverine.
Yeah.
Also just like the fact that if you have a Pegasus, you do have to do like normal horse stuff to it. Like she's like washing it, and probably like presumably it needs like shoes or whatever. I don't know. Yeah.
Have you seen Nope yet?
No, I have not. No.
Oh man. There's some horse content in that. I'll be really curious to how it lands on with you.
Is that out for like streaming stuff, or is it just?
Nah,
yeah, that's what I thought.
I don't know how common this is everywhere. So, Liv and I have like closed our COVID bubble a little bit, but we're doing movies when we can choose our seat at weird times if we can sit like on the other side of the room from people.
Yeah.
We've been lucky enough to do that.
That's been my MCU stuff is going on a like a weekday morning or whatever, and just like seeing that there's nobody has reserved seating, and it's worked almost every single time. Like I've not been within 6 feet of anybody in the movie theater since I've gone. So
I gotta go see. Still gotta go see Love and Thunder.
Oh yeah, you're way behind on MCU stuff.
I'm so behind. I watched the first episode of Moon Knight.
Yes.
Like I'm really, really behind. Getting COVID and then moving, like, really snapped me out of it for a little bit.
That's fine.
So.
You should just skip Moon Knight. It's fine. It's no problem.
Yeah. The first episode's all right. Khonshu looks great.
Yeah.
Scary monster.
Yeah.
So Wolverine is cranky. He's like, I want to help move hay, and everyone's like, hey, you're still recovering. Like, your healing factor, you still need to heal. Don't do it. And Wolverine's like, fuck this shit.
Yeah.
You know, he's being an asshole because he does not like being put out to pasture. He fucks up their pitchfork, walks off.
Yes, I mean, I know this is in the 80s, but like that's at least a $4 pitchfork. It's gonna come out of your car allowance, Wolverine. I'm just saying. Yeah, does Magneto still pay everybody in cars? Do you think? Do you think he pays everybody in like? He probably fashions metal statues. Like, here's my art. I'm gonna pay you in my art.
Statues is great. I was thinking he minted his own coins with his face on them.
I love it. Yeah. I love it. Magnetokens. 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 Yeah. I can't
That's
stop
good
saying
for
that.
One game of foosball, Logan.
No cheating. It's a wooden ball.
No cheating.
I am just as good.
I never cheat. Who wants to play foosball with a master of magnetism? Kitty Pryde is in the kitchen scrounging munchies.
Yeah,
here.
You know how that is, Gary. We're both children of the 80s. We have to scrounge some munchies.
I've
before.
scrounged a munchie.
Mm-hmm.
During this whole time, Magneto is saying there's a huge word bubble coming out of his head of a 6-pack of Coke.
So I assumed that he was pulling this 6-pack can of Cokes out of the refrigerator and putting it on her stack of munchies because she didn't scrounge a drink.
I think you're right, but Magneto's power has never looked like this.
No, never, ever in a million years. Like, I don't know why. Like, you should see like little bubbles above it or something. So,
little purple energy waves. It really looks like or nothing.
Yeah,
it really looks like he's saying Coke if he were a sim.
Yes.
It's really bizarre.
And her and Ilyana are studying so that they need some fuel, some homework fuel, and she just kind of floats her way back up to the top. Meanwhile, Wolverine is kind of walking around the garden when Nightcrawler surprises him by just teleporting out of nowhere and then just collapses directly in front of him because both him and Wolverine are not up to full strength yet. It's really weird that they pulled the I don't have my powers, and then the next issue is just like, I've got my powers, they just kind of suck now, and without any sort of explanation. Maybe it was just in the previous issue or whatever, but like,
he just practiced. It was he's slowly, barely getting there. They're gonna go grab a drink. And this weird humanimal pops up out of the ground.
This poor guy, real short end of the mutant stick. Yeah, just like, I'm a purple and gray faced monster with like what looked like hooves, but like pointed hooves, which seemed like to eliminate completely the function of hooves.
I've seen a Morlock, but you are a fucking Morlock.
you are the reason that they went into the sewers. You're not. I mean, nobody thinks that they should live there except for Xavier, but like, still, you're. Yeah.
Magneto feels neutral on the matter. I like how he, even though he's this big humanimal, like, he still has Claremont. I like, aid us, X-Men, beg, implore do I for salvation. Like, strangers in the alley, they kill the Morlocks.
I also really love the idea of them bringing him into the infirmary instead of bringing the infirmary to him, which would have had to be incredibly. That's so much easier. But and then they've got him under this like 80-foot tarp for a sheet,
dude. It's like double California King.
Whose modesty are they protecting? Sheet. Like, did they take off of his weird pants so his dingling is out down there? Like, and they were like, oh, we got to cover it up with a 70-foot tarp that we got from.
We were all curious, Logan. We all needed to see
Everybody wanted to know, Logan. It's a learning experience.
You would do the same if you were me. They're there with Betsy Braddock, classic Betsy Braddock, as opposed to Ninja Betsy Braddock, who's the psychic. She's the one psychic they have on the team now. And she probes his last memory is of everyone getting massacred in the Morlock tunnels.
Yes.
Here's, Magneto brings up, he's like, oh, this is the horror of my childhood. Only this time they're mutants instead of Jews. Just thanks for spelling that out, Magneto. And Wolverine, because I like how there's this continuity, he had that leader talk with Storm. So rather than like busting his claws and walking out, he's just like, are we involved?
Yeah.
He's deferring to her.
Very cool.
And she's like, fuck yeah, we are. Like, I'm leader of the Morlocks. Magneto, you stay here with the kids, but we have to go down there.
And Magneto kind of chafes at this, right? Like, because he wants to get into action and like this is something that he would really care about, but realizing that like, oh, that's not my role anymore. My role is to stay here and just really fuck up the New Mutants just in a lot of different ways.
Psychological ways to decide which New Mutants get how much soda.
Exactly.
Like I could single-handedly take out Scalp Hunter without a thought, but it's really important that I disseminate these cokes to the New Mutants.
The X-Men team, Ileana teleports them over to the Morlock tunnels, where they find Callisto and a bunch of dead and wounded Morlocks.
This is where the alligators were.
Yes.
So the alligators kind of chased off the Marauders. It's why Callisto didn't.
Oh, there is one little
die.
alligator in that frame. I didn't really see that. The alligator's just hanging out.
It's the one surviving alligator.
Yeah. Where's Piper? Says the alligator.
Just, aw.
That's when Vertigo attacks.
Yep. Real bad scene. Vertigo is like one of those secretly very effective villains. It feels like I don't know. I can't fight if I'm dizzy. And they're doing their 1-2 punch, like make everybody dizzy while Riptide just throws a bunch of miscellaneous sharp objects.
Yes.
At them. Rogue and Colossus get in the way, to try to block, but it's really difficult for them because they can barely see. They can barely stand where they're at. Wolverine, as he's talking about this, Nightcrawler teleports, kicks Riptide in the face, but it's the last teleport he does. It really takes it out of him.
Yes.
Or no, he doesn't. He teleports Vertigo around, and then this is what wipes him out.
Yeah. And Wolverine's like, he realizes like he's relaying, so Riptide is behind him, and Wolverine's like, oh shit, like he's about to get fucked up. And then he tries to teleport away, and he's not able to. He's down pretty quick.
Yep. I like the idea of Nightcrawler being able to counter Vertigo because he's always doing weird upside down shit. Mm-hmm. He's very used to it. Nightcrawler got really fucked up. He's bleeding a lot. They're like, oh, we can save him. They have to scrounge for bandages and stuff. Really, really no good. And he's like, man, he should have been faster. Like made certain that Riptide was knocked out. And that's true. Like you guys are just not at your best here. Wolverine and Rogue both swear revenge.
Yeah, of course.
He can run, but he can't hide. Magic, take the wounded back to the mansion. And she says, should I come back with reinforcements? Should I come back with the New Mutants and Magneto? And Storm says, absolutely not.
No.
This is a killing ground. This is serious business.
Yeah.
We cannot just bring the kids into this.
We jump over to Scalp Hunter, who is systematically murdering his way through all of the Morlock tunnels.
Yep.
So he breaks in on I can't remember this chick's name, but it's an old lady who's like trying to shield some kids, and he just murders them. He just shoots them in the face.
Yep. Fuck them kids. Do not try this on me. We cut over to Colossus and Kitty, and they're just seeing bodies everywhere. They're hearing these gunshots and screams, walking through the sewer, just like walking over corpses. Like it's pretty dark shit. Scalp Hunter comes back out and is like, my job's done. Your turn, Arclight. Like they're basically just taking turns doing this for sport. Because they're real shitbags.
Yeah, they're not only are they not only are they killing people, they're having a really good time doing it.
Yeah. It's a Gambit found all the worst people he knew in high school for this shit. Like, is all these douchebags. Colossus tries to get the drop on them by throwing a rock at them, but Arclight punches it out of the air.
Yes.
And Arclight is super strong. We haven't really talked about her powers or anything. She has one shoulder exposed and she's very strong. She beats up Colossus.
Yeah.
Knocks him back.
Knocks him like way the fuck back, like across a thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Really great part here where so he's buried in rubble. Kitty Pryde is shocked by this, and Scalp Hunter puts a gun to her head, and he's like, oh, do you miss him? I can remedy that, and tries to shoot, but the bullet goes right through her head.
So
because she's Shadowcat.
Just dumb power stuff here. Just since we like to delve into some of this thing. When she's phased, do sound waves still hit her?
Good question. Because they would have to.
They would have to for her to be able to hear anything, but also like this would literally shatter her eardrum. And since sound waves are
Yeah.
like physical objects, I'm curious if they've ever done like a deep dive into any of that.
In addition, so like the one of the famous Warren Ellis like trivia things about powers is that if you're invisible, light cannot reflect off your eye, so you'd be blind if you're invisible. Do light waves hit her?
Do light waves hit her?
I guess they do.
They
We
have
can
to.
see her.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's an interesting form of intangibility where it's like just solid objects, but what constitutes solid? You know, we know she can go through water and go through solid, you know, like matter things, but there's like a line somewhere in there. You know? Interesting.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
Yeah. He tries to kill her, he can't. And she's like, I can phase into you and hurt you and like kill you. But I'm not gonna, and then leaves, just dooming so many Morlocks to death.
Absolutely. But also, you know, there is something to be said for not killing someone that you don't know. So,
no, I get it. It's funny that this is the consequences for it.
Yeah,
are just very high in this storyline. You know, cut over to Wolverine and Storm and Rogue, who are leading the surviving Morlocks out through the tunnels. The ones who weren't wounded, who didn't get teleported away. Here, and they're moving real slow because they have some people who are, you know, like walking wounded there. They get down to the edge of the hallway and a laser beam comes by, and it's an optic blast. They recognize it. It's the original X-Men.
And they're like, you know, oh shit, like we're about to have a fight. And no, that's not going to happen because this explosion happens, which is Colossus just basically blowing a hole in the wall and like separating the two teams. So there's a lot of like, again, when we talked about things happening at the same time, like we're going to see the other side of this at one point.
Yeah. The old lady who's protecting him was Anna Lee. That is the cover of Scorpions lady from the cartoon.
Yeah, I knew there was something there, and I could not remember it to save my life. So,
yeah. They're all just coping. Like they're all very upset about everything that's happening when a harpoon lands, and they're just like, "No, you were gonna fucking die." And here comes Scrambler, Harpoon, and Riptide again. And they say prioritize Wolverine.
Yeah.
You know, he is the most dangerous.
And they do.
Yeah. It feels like Wolverine wins. You know, both men fall, but only one screams, neither dies. But that can quickly change. Super cool part where Scrambler walks up to Storm and tries to turn off her powers, and she doesn't have her powers.
Yeah, I love
so
that.
She just punches him in the face.
Just very funny. Yeah, just blap right in the face.
Yeah. And this is all going, you know, fine, you know, for our heroes until Riptide's like, fuck this shit, and just starts throwing miscellaneous shit like garbage.
Yeah.
Shrapnel at everybody.
Literally just shredding everybody. Yeah. And Colossus tries to stand between them, acting as a kind of a shield, but is taken down by Harpoon, and it does not seem to feel very good. And then we get this really interesting thing where Scrambler tries to turn off Rogue's powers, and their abilities are so similar that when they touch, they just basically neutralize one another and they both collapse. I think that's really, really cool.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Harpoon tries to take this opportunity to stab Rogue in the back, but Shadowcat jumps in front of it, and she has to be solid to block the shot.
Yeah.
You know? Colossus is fighting Riptide, who's throwing these little pieces of metal at him. They can't quite get into him, you know, but it's still affecting him at this point. And he's hearing just like all these people scream from these pieces of metal. And he breaks Riptide's neck.
Yeah.
Like grabs his throat and just cracks it. You know, he's been pushed too far.
I am absolutely obsessed with this art in the bottom right panel where he's like looking back and he's all in like silhouette except for his eyes, which are white, and he just has these things sticking out of his body, like, you know, make your peace with your gods, Harpoon, you were next. Like Colossus has lost his shit, and that's very scary.
Super cool. You know, like the dark side of just like how far can you push him? You know, it didn't happen when he saw Kitty get hurt, you know, which would make a lot of sense. Like that would berserk him at this point. So yeah, he's freaking out. He comes back. He's like, you know, where is he? You know, where is Harpoon? And Harpoon Scrambler took off.
Yeah.
You know, everyone's kind of angsting about Peter killing Riptide, you know, and just being like, this isn't what you should be doing. Like Rogue, you know, me, Rogue, or Wolverine should be doing this. This isn't for Peter, he's gentle. And again, really cool development here. Storm tries to help Kitty up and can't touch her. Kitty cannot turn solid.
Yeah, she's lost the bit. She can't phase out anymore, which is very funny.
Yep.
And very good.
Yep. She can't speak. She can't make any noise, because she can't push the sound around or anything like that. This is going to lead to a thing that I don't know if we'll cover it. It's part of like the extended omnibus of this storyline. But the X-Men versus Fantastic Four, which is them trying to get Fantastic Four to cure Kitty Pryde, and I think Doctor Doom manipulates them all into fighting each other.
Perfect.
Which is kind of interesting to me, just because I have not seen a bunch of X-Men with Doctor Doom shit, or X-Men with Fantastic Four. It doesn't feel like a matchup that happens very often.
Yeah, I didn't even know that was a thing. So I might dip into that at some point when I'm looking for stuff to read, because that sounds really interesting.
I'm curious, and like it answers the question, like, why doesn't, when something like this is happening, why wouldn't you just go to Mr. Fantastic and have him fix it?
Yeah, he's a magic cure-all. Yeah, because the comic, but the answer is because the comic would be boring. Yeah. This is pretty much the end of the issue, and it's some of which is Storm just like being sent, like, I led them here, and I feel like this is a bitter defeat, and Wolverine's just kind of encouraging her, like, hey, it's not the war that counts, it's the war that counts. It's not the single battle. And we see Storm, who is like, this has made her even more committed to the cause of finding the Marauders. And she's going to very specifically leave Wolverine to them so that he can murder all of them.
Yeah, they got to go. This leads us into X Factor number 10. Here has that frame with all of the every Marvel hero, but then just Cyclops staring directly at us.
Yeah, but with a real frown on his face, like he just got told that he has genital herpes or something. Like, oh,
he's getting midsummered as we speak.
Yes, absolutely. Why am I a bear? Oh,
jeez, big issue of in X-Men lore. Coming right here. This is, Louise Simonson, who wrote X Factor, but this Walter Simonson draws it, her husband. This is back when I didn't hate his work. I still don't love it. Like, I don't really understand why people love Walt Simonson's art, but this was the guy who did the worst art during AVX.
Yeah.
Did all that Secret Avengers stuff that just looked like absolute dog shit.
Yeah, this looks okay. It's very stylized, obviously. I don't really see a huge problem with it. It's just not to my taste as some stuff is. Like, I don't hate it, but it's not my fave. So
there's some weird proportion stuff that happens eventually in it that's like hard to look at. I think I don't hate it. It's not as bad as it was before. But we have another crew of surviving Morlocks here. Just in another part of the sewers, sewers are really big. They do not know what's going on yet. They're eating hot dogs and they hear the screams and shots.
Where are they getting their clothing
from?
Coming
closer.
I
thought you're going to ask where they're getting hot dogs from.
Well, I'm assuming there's a mutant power somewhere that just gives them a hot dog or gives them some sort of weird meat.
just like Spider-Man shoots stuff out of his wrist.
Yeah.
In the movie, just a hot dog slides out.
I don't think it's a hot dog. I think it's just a pile of meat that they fashion into hot dog using there's another mutant who makes casings. Basically, if you get enough mutants together, you can make boudin, Gary, is what I'm saying. And I think that's a fun time. And we should all.
I am called casing.
Called casing.
Let me show you why.
I make sheep intestines come out of my fingers, and everyone's like, ugh, what the fuck, man?
Jesus Christ. Like, I just look normal. Sorry, Morlock. We can't have you around, man. You make sheep intestines out of your fingers.
Jesus Christ, dude. That's so gross.
Yeah.
Did Jimmy Dean make you? Like, are you the Jimmy Dean Weapon X program? What the fuck?
The weapon, we don't know what weapon plus, weapon plus sausage, weapon plus a biscuit, weapon plus eggs.
Oh, it's so gross.
Get a whole weapons grand slam.
Yeah. They start hearing shots. And here comes the Marauders to murder a bunch of people. And sure enough, they are straight up murdering a bunch of people. And that's what they do. Meanwhile, Angel is carrying Jean she is carrying Rusty using telekinetic powers as they are trying to get Rusty back to help. Meanwhile, Skids is just skidding all over the place.
Yep, just zooping around.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone else is heading back, and there's nonstop dialogue. There's not a whole lot to it. They're just saying what they're doing out loud because that's comics at the time. Cyclops, Iceman, and Beast, who are still in the sewer, are like, "Hey, we have to go find find the kid." They're talking about Artie. He's feeling a lot of guilt, because they brought Rusty into this, and Rusty might be seriously hurt.
Yeah.
They stumble upon the Marauders killing the third batch of Morlocks here.
Yeah.
Include the eye patch Erg. The eye patch Morlock is the represented named Morlock in the zone.
Erg. Come on, dude.
Erg.
That's not a name.
Yeah,
That's a
I know.
sound. I'm like, what are you doing?
He also looks pretty normal. He probably just got sent into Morlock camp because of his name.
Imagine picking the name
like
Erg.
people get shunted into Morlocks,
and then all of a sudden, like, you have to go hang out in the sewers all the time. It's like, because
Yeah.
what nobody ever talks about is like, because they make this whole thing look like vaguely futuristic, and it's not. It's just a bunch of brick and mortar and like soupy water, right? Like that's all that this is.
Yeah. Soup if you're lucky.
Mhm.
It's everybody who gets hit by one of these tiny. This is why Riptide's so effective here, is because any cut instantly gets infected.
Yeah.
Like Riptide on the surface is not that big a deal. You can fight him with a bottle of peroxide, but Riptide in the sewer, like you need to get on antibiotics quick.
Oh man, have you had your tetanus shot? If not, you can't go fight.
Yeah, it's part of the prep, the Witcher prep to fight Riptide. Before he has his neck broken, of course. So they fight the Marauders, attempt to do it, and again, X Factor kind of sucks. Here, Iceman puts up a shield to block Harpoon, and it can't even block that. It bashes his shield. They're trying to fight back, but they're really pulling their punches, not doing very good until Arclight does her move, tries to make an avalanche on everybody. Cyclops blasts this with a wide angle beam to try to stop it, but it creates a little division.
Yeah.
Between them,
which is like the fourth time that this has happened in this series, and like just in this
Arclight
little
loves to do it.
like day, like it's it's.
Arclight lives for collapsing the sewer to create partitions.
Of course, it's fantastic.
It's her favorite thing.
We check in on Angel and Jean, who are still traveling, and Skids is still insisting that she can get them up there with them, and that's when they manage finally to get back to headquarters. And that's when Skids realizes that they are working for X Factor, and it's treated as this like huge ordeal, and she's going to storm out. And Jean Grey solves it in typical Jean Grey fashion by almost murdering her accidentally.
Yeah, you have a force field, so we can't touch you, but I can surround you with metal from things so you cannot get away. Cut back over to Artie, Leech, and Caliban, the monster crew. Caliban now has a cool symbol on his shirt. He didn't have the Caliban symbol.
Yeah, it's like a half of a gear. It's very weird.
And he's going there trying to save the kids. Sabretooth shows up. This is the first time he's shown up in this, even though he's classically a Marauder.
Yeah.
Fucks up Caliban.
Also,
this has been the bad month for Caliban for us on the show.
For real. This was also several hours ago, just to make this whole thing very confusing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So like this is happening before some of the other stuff. Cyclops just blasts Sabretooth as soon as he sees him, like doesn't even hesitate, which I think is good, but also doesn't use lethal force, which is bad because now he is responsible for everybody that Sabretooth kills from here on out. It's Cyclops' fault.
Yep. Again, Iceman, forget him, Psych. He's not going anywhere. Like, I don't know, man. Check on him.
When has Sabretooth ever stayed in one place?
Yeah, I don't. And he even says this kind of thing. He's like, "Oh, who hit me? Figured I'd be down without my healing factor because Leech is around here." Even though that doesn't explain why Cyclops can still use his power, Leech is confusing. But Sabretooth is basically like, "I'm just 2-man mode."
Yeah.
To do that, to get past it.
We check in on the Pentagon, where Mystique has unleashed her master plan to let Trish connect the dots between Warren Worthington and Angel and the financial backer for X Factor, which of course creates a big crisis with Candy Southern, who is running Worthington's company for him while all of this is happening. And she's also a little jilted because him and her have not hung out for a little bit, so she's feeling a little like abandoned by him.
Yes. Yeah. Cut back to the Marauders. An area of the sewer called the Alley, which is confusing. Where Blockbuster, another Marauder we haven't seen a lot of, who's a big strong guy. He looks like something in a tall puck. Who's just strong,
also
punches.
Also exposed shoulder.
Yeah.
Just got to mention it real quick.
It is the uniform.
Yeah.
Like I didn't notice it until reading it this time that the Marauders all had that awful fucking visual motif. God, it looks like garbage. People yell at me because they say like all I do is complain about fashion in Final Fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of bad fashion out there.
Oh yeah.
I don't give a pass to this shit. Yeah. Like yes, Numura designs look bad, but it's not like this is what I think looks good.
You get some creative artists out there designing clothes when they've never really designed clothes before, and it's going to be a bad time. Like there's very few artists I've seen out there that do a real good job of like. I joked about Kevin Wada earlier in the episode, but like go look up any of his stuff, and he's like, oh, he's good at fashion and drawing X-Men, and he's really good at doing the two of those together. So
yep, yeah. So he's knocking Warlocks into each other. Iceman gives him some ice cuffs. Vertigo makes him dizzy. They're just fighting.
Yeah, this is typical fighting stuff. Vertigo really the MVP of the whole Marauders thing of just like making every single X-Man just slip around and not be able to do anything except for the one trump card Beast, who is an acrobat. So he's able to, he never gets dizzy because that's what acrobat's power is, I guess.
Yep. Kicks her in the face,
yeah.
But there's no time. So they just continue to help out the survivors and everything while she gets away with Blockbuster. Again, putting all those Morlock lives on their hands. Artie and Leech are in the little sewer tunnel. Caliban is now gone, and they're trying to get out. Artie sees the X-Men, or their X-Factor here, Cyclops, Beast, and Iceman, walking kind of wounded, and knows where they're at, so he's going to try to head towards them if he can.
Importantly, he had to walk away a little bit from Leech to be able to do that, which
Yes.
also need. Leech is just like, I'll just stay in this tunnel. Tunnels have been good to Leech,
Yep.
so.
I don't know why Leech doesn't just hang out in the tube all the time. We go to X-Factor where like subplot stuff's happening. So in the relationship stuff with the X-Men, Scott and Jean have had a real weird relationship since Jean came back to life and found out that he had married a woman that looked just like her. Kind of thing that feels a little weird.
I mean, I think it happens to any relationship over like maybe 10 years old. Me and Autumn went through something very similar, like when you're 13, 14. So, and we got over it. Like, the strength of the love and all that stuff. You just have to work together. It's about compromise mostly. So.
Yeah, I'm very curious that in my current relationship, who's going to end up in an egg at the bottom of the ocean.
Oh, that's definitely
whenever,
you. I've not met Liv yet, but that's definitely, I can feel like you just have egg and ocean energy coming off of you at all times.
I can't wait. I've always wanted to be in an egg.
The first time you and I were on a microphone together was recording that Bonfireside Chat PvP episode way back in the day. And immediately I got off the thing and I looked at Autumn and I'm like, he's got big ocean egg energy. And she was like, I don't get that joke. And I'm like, you won't for like 6 years. Don't worry about it.
You will.
In 2022, you're going to fucking lose your shit.
Yes. So he's angsting about being an X-Factor and like how he backed them, but they're doomed now because Rusty's going to get arrested and he's going to die. They're going to know who we are. I'm tired of all these lies. I've been being a jerk. Scott's been being a real asshole. Skids was right. We fucking suck. Just really going on about it. And Jean's like, no, it's not your fault. This did turn into a nightmare, but it's not on you. And they have had some like romantic tension.
Yeah.
A little bit here. They're just really good friends, but there is a little bit of tension there since she's on the outs with Scott.
Yes.
For very understandable reasons. And they embrace, he kisses her forehead at this point, and it's the exact wrong time because Candy Sutherland walks in and assumes that they're fucking even though they're both in full uniform.
Well, I mean, in defense, like when she comes in, Warren just like kind of backs off, but he's got his hands in the classic boob honking position. So like she probably assumed some boob honking was happening. Look at those boob honkers he's got in that right there. I mean, it's
they're a cross between a boob honk and like a witch casting a spell over a cauldron.
Yeah. I'm honking some spells on your boobs. That's what I'm doing right now.
It's boob of newt, breast of toad. Doing magic there. But yeah, she's pissed. This is a real like, somebody got caught kind of moment.
Yeah, and she throws her briefcase at him and is like, "You run your own fucking company." And Jean is like, "Hey, you should go deal with this. Rusty's stable. Skids can stay with them. I'm going to go back down and save the X-Men. I'm going to go help them." And so it leaves Warren in this position to have to make a decision do I want to pursue my girlfriend or my not quite girlfriend and the rest of my team? And he decides on the team. He's going to go back down to the sewers.
Turns out this moment right here is the worst decision Warren Worthington ever made in his life.
Yep.
This is the fulcrum on which this character becomes an angsty anti-hero over the course of 20 years. Right here. Him I gotta go save my best friend and not go try to save my business. Back in the sewer, the Marauders are fighting a character named Plague. Here, every time they touch her, she makes them very sick. She almost kills Sabretooth here. And Harpoon is about to kill her at this point when Apocalypse walks up behind him and fucking dunks his head into the ground.
Chalks him to the ground, my dude. This is hilarious.
I love it.
This is so fucking hilarious. And he's just like, "Hey, Plague, how would you like to be called Pestilence instead?" And she's like, "Yeah,
dude,
okay."
I love it. He's got his hand behind his back, it looks like. I like to think he has a thesaurus back there.
Absolutely, yeah.
So he's just coming up with new names for everybody.
Very good, yes.
I have a real weakness for the Horsemen. I always thought they were super cool. And so this was, reading this and then reading into X Factor with this first stuff with Apocalypse. They're fucking dorky mechanical horses that they ride around and stuff. This is all put this in my veins.
Super great.
I love all this shit.
Yeah. He recruits Pestilence, and then we check in with Jean and Warren, who are still trying to find the X-Men. And they do in the middle of a fight.
Yep.
Everybody is fighting. We've got some new Morlocks here that we haven't seen before.
They haven't run out yet.
Yeah, they're just, they keep coming on.
Or new Marauders.
Marauders, I'm sorry, not Morlocks.
Yeah. Because we get this one who really shittily, they designed an off-model Iceman.
Yeah, and they call him Prism. And I guess it's I'm going to use this. I'm going to shine my light. I'm going to refract light all over you or whatever. But it just really looks like Iceman when he's fully iced out. So,
yep. And he's in a fight with Iceman. I do not know why they made this character look like this or added this guy to the Marauders. They just did not have enough fucked up dudes.
Yeah, they were just
to add.
Steadily coming up with more fucked up dudes.
He refracts Cyclops' beam back at him, and Jean Grey smashes him up against the wall. That's great. Arclight and Scrambler get away at this point. So the X-Men are doing okay here, but the Marauders do just keep adding extra Marauders.
Yeah. Where are they coming from? Where do they go?
I don't know. The Gambit Rolodex run deep.
He's classic Louisiana man. He's got guys for everything. You need a prism guy? I got a prism guy. You need a harpoon guy? I got 3 harpoon guys.
Yeah.
You need a shoulder guy? Oh, I got a shoulder guy. Don't worry about that.
Sinister's looking for someone to throw a spear. Gambit got a harpoon guy. So Beast and Cyclops got fucked up during this fight here. Or Beast and Iceman and Cyclops, actually. So Jean Grey's going to get him out.
Yeah.
She puts him up on a stretcher. At this point, just as he's about to pass out, Cyclops says, "You know what? Angel's a good dude. If I survive and he survives this whole thing, I'm not going to stand in the way of the relationship. He can be with Jean."
And he doesn't tell anybody this. He's just thinking this, which is really fucking weird.
Yeah. I'll just go to my backup wife. I've got a safety school, name of Madeline Pryor. So they take off, leaving Warren Worthington alone in the sewers.
Yeah. Bummer for that guy.
To go try to find Artie. Yeah.
Which he does on the next page.
Yep.
Great.
And saves him.
Yeah.
His sacrifice was not for nothing. He does get the kid out of there. But he's got a bunch of Marauders who have cornered him at this point. And they fuck him up. He puts up an okay fight, but he's just Warren Worthington. Vertigo makes him dizzy. He knocks her out, but Blockbuster grabs his hand and Harpoon kind of hits him and everything until eventually Blockbuster grabs his wing and then breaks it.
Yeah.
Here. And he's being strategic during this. He's like, make sure I scream really loud to keep them distracted and happy so the kids can get away.
Yeah. He is trying to let Artie get out of here. And unfortunately, Blockbuster throws him against the wall, and Harpoon uses his energy harpoons to pin his wings as if he was a butterfly in a weirdos collection. And that's where we leave off with him just pinned to the fucking wall, and the Marauder saying, "Hey, it's time to kill this dude." So
hugely important X-Men movement.
Oh yeah,
moment.
Yeah, this is
you know,
big.
like, yeah, his wings are fucked up, which is how Apocalypse gets to him and creates the redesign for him. Real big deal. The first of the, I mean, Jean Grey was the first of the main X-Men to have like this really, really drastic, tragic consequence, but this one is probably the longest lasting. Like, Jean kept coming back. This is just like every once in a while he has human wings, but he's never been the same as a character.
Yeah.
Which is great because there wasn't a whole lot to him.
I was just about to say that. Like, it was a good thing. As much as all of that stuff gets like teased and there's so much dramatic stuff, like Warren Worthington, there just wasn't a whole lot there by default, right? Like we used to make jokes about him just like throwing rocks at people while he was flying around. So,
like, in terms of dynamism in fight scenes, 100%, and then even in terms of character, like the billionaire playboy who isn't Batman doesn't spend.
Yeah.
You know, Batman or Tony Stark, and he's just kind of like another generic white dude.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he didn't have enough goofy energy that, like, say, Iceman has to differentiate himself personality wise in the original 5. Like, he always felt like lesser Scott.
Yes.
In terms of personality.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a great turn and just leads to a lot of weird, cool things here. And we have the humble Harpoon to thank for.
Yeah, thank you, Harpoon. We appreciate you and your bared shoulder to giving us this unique opportunity.
Love that single shoulder. Love that haircut.
This is so I was kind of worried at first when I started this, just because sometimes going back to the 80s, especially with the X-Men, especially with Claremont, even for the podcast, is a little rough. Like, there's just a lot of text to get through, and I was like, what did Gary sign me up for? Why did I agree to this? But very quickly kind of got into the overall story, and I don't know, man, seeing these dumbass Marauder designs and seeing weird X-Men stuff is so much fun. And then Apocalypse showing up out of nowhere, I was like, fuck yeah, let's do it. Okay, whatever. Why are you in the sewers, Apocalypse? This is dumb.
It leads into such imagining Apocalypse picking up a manhole cover, and then climbing down a ladder. You know, it just leads into a lot of cool shit. It's just an important cool event, you know, that happens here. It's also similar to the AVX thing. One of the reasons why I like the idea of this crossover is it's going to get us reading some other shit.
Yeah.
So there's a Daredevil issue, there's a Thor issue, there's a Power Pack issue.
I know. I'm excited about that.
Yeah, Power Pack. It's just a bunch of little kids.
Yeah. What are they doing in this whole thing? Can't wait to find out.
Yeah, I have no idea. So I'm looking forward to that. And then just, again, tons of affection because this leads into the Apocalypse shit.
Yeah.
I think Apocalypse is cool.
Apocalypse has never been uncool, except in that one movie that named X-Men Apocalypse, where he was very uncool.
Just live action Apocalypse, not great.
Which celebrity darling was that played him, that said that he would never do anything like that again? Was it Oscar Isaac that did that?
It was Oscar Isaac.
Yeah. He hated that. Yeah, which is very funny to me. So.
Yeah. Well, then he's a Moon Knight.
Yeah. So obviously,
so he is doing it again.
But he's not doing. I mean, I guess it's basically the same thing. I don't know.
Yeah. I listened to YouTube that was talking about the movie Juggernaut, like from X-Men 3, and how that guy eventually, Vinnie Jones, like gave an interview and talked about how the original script had like tons of character development and was like really cool. And he kept having meetings with Brett Ratner, and Brett Ratner kept just saying like, no, we're adding that, and basically lied to him the whole time, which is just very like funny and sad. And he's like, yeah, fans are really mad at me about it because I like ruined the character, and I'm mad too. Like, that fucking sucked. It's just like really interesting to hear his experience. Like, nobody had fun working on those X-Men movies.
There was it was Christina Ricci, an interview with her about the movie Black Snake Moan. Do you remember that? I never saw the movie, but I just remember the trailer.
I've never seen it. I certainly remember the trailer.
Yeah,
it's a weird, unsavory, horny looking movie.
And someone at some like talk or whatever asked her about it, and she was like, yeah, like that movie is kind of a weird spot for me because I was sold on the script because it was this like empowerment thing, and the character had a super good arc, and that's the movie that we made and we filmed, and then someone at the studio like re-edited it for like horny teenage boys. So of course it just makes no fucking sense whatever, and it's just like for shock value. And she goes, I like to disassociate myself from the movie entirely, and I just want her and the guy that plays Juggernaut to be like, yeah, I feel the same way about X-Men 3.
It's it's nobody who's making a movie like thinks they're making a shitty movie.
Yeah.
Like every once in a while you'll hear a story where somebody will be like, yeah, I knew this was bad when I was doing it. But that's very rare. I think people are kind of true believers, and then
well, I think
it just kind of they get ambushed.
One of the reasons I like the movie, fuck, its name just completely escaped me. Not The Big Chill. It doesn't matter.
The Big Short?
Get Shorty. That's it. There you go. It's because it does one of the characters, like his whole specialty is making B movies, and that they all know is pretty terrible, but everybody has like an extreme fondness for it anyway. Like they still like kind of give it their all, even though they're real budget movies. And that attitude is very endearing to me, of like, oh, we're gonna do this, and it's maybe it doesn't have the big budget stuff, but we're still gonna do it. We're gonna give it our all, and like it makes me think like you just said, like nobody is setting out to make terrible shit ever. Like they're doing their best to make the best stuff that they can. It's just sometimes they're not very good at it, and then sometimes like weird shit happens. So like everything that is happening with Warner Brothers right now is kind of fucking bonkers. So
yep.
They're going to cancel Doom Patrol, and that means you should watch Doom Patrol now that it's ended. There's a finite amount of episodes for you to get into, because I think you would like that a whole lot.
I will. I still have to watch American Vandal, because Will gave me a very rare, like, I broke his composure, and he went, dude.
Are you serious?
And Will never does that. So Will did a dude. So I got to get through that, and then I also need to
all the MCU
start
stuff.
watching Moon Knight.
Yeah,
all kinds of stuff I'm behind on, and then me and Liv have been watching What We Do in the Shadows, which is, out of all these things, is the thing I most want to watch.
Yeah,
but
that's
only watching that with
that's
her.
the good shit. I love that show.
Dude, it's
dude.
It is the perfect show. It's like the perfect silly.
I was really worried when they announced it, and even up to like right when we were about to watch it for the first time, like it was going to be like somehow, because the movie is perfect. The movie is just the ideal format,
Yes.
and like it's so good. And I was like, they're going to repeat this stuff, and it's going to be not as good. And instead, it like just takes it onto a totally different level, and it's really, really fucking great. You're gonna love American Vandal. That's one of me and Autumn's favorites, like, series. And it's so goofy and corny and great. And when Will was recommending that Players show, which is like a similar vibe, but for League of Legends teams, I was like, this has got to be the stupidest thing. But like, if it's that vibe, like, and the first episode was fucking great. Like, we were addicted, so we're gonna go back and watch it.
That's great. Yeah, great time for TV.
Autumn keeps looking at me going, is this a real video game?
I don't know if you heard, like, when me and Will, when he first told me about that the trailer for that did such a good job that I did not realize it was like a mockumentary.
Oh, really?
And I don't know anything about that game. Yeah, they're like, when gamers think about something, they think about cream cheese. And I thought it was a real documentary and I was going to take that shit seriously. And I was like, oh, that looks awful.
Oh, it's so terrible.
I did not realize there was any fiction to it.
That's so good. No, I haven't. I'm so far behind on fucking Guppy, dude. It's ridiculous. I don't even know where I left off at this point. So
last week was very good. So, no. Anywho, just us talking.
Yeah.
If you like this show, go to patreon.com/Duckfeed.tv.
Give us some money. In return, we'd appreciate. We will give you content, tons and tons and tons of content. It's a ridiculous amount of exclusive podcasts and episodes and content for you to consume and enjoy, like a good little internet member.
Yes.
Do all of that stuff. Leave ratings and reviews. Tell your people about podcasts. Sign us up on your cousin's phones. Do all that stuff. We love you.
Absolutely. Umbasa.
By that point, we had so many Morlocks, it was ridiculous.